does Ohio State belong in the college football playoff?
They don't belong in the college football playoff right off the top. They need help. And I think that's the fascinating part about these games as well, because, the path changes, obviously, depending on who wins these games. And obviously, Georgia and Michigan, unless something crazy happens, are likely to be 1-2, right? And really, Michigan's going to be that second team, and it's just a matter of who's going to be that first team in the SEC, in my opinion. But ultimately, when you look at Ohio State, I think the big thing here is that they need help. They're in a place where they're not playing this weekend. So they're sitting here saying, okay, yes, we want Washington to win a ball game, because that takes Oregon out of the picture at that point. We want, we want, these certain things to happen so that we have a chance to get in. And so when you consider the idea that the committee's looking at this and saying, okay, who are the best teams available? So if we've got Georgia, Michigan, and Washington locked into those first three spots, who should have that final spot? Because I think a lot of people are kind of moving to the thought of, hey, Florida State just shouldn't be in there just based on injury status alone. And whether it's Jordan Travis, their backup, whatever the whole deal is, it's just not in their favor anymore. So if we take Florida State out of the picture, it essentially falls back to three teams: Ohio State, Alabama, and Texas. So assuming that Texas wins their game, Texas fan is going to say, okay, yeah, we should absolutely be more deserving than Ohio State because we won our game. We shouldn't have to worry about Alabama, assuming they lose to Georgia. And Ohio State didn't play this weekend. So how are you going to put Ohio State in over us? Well, if you're asking the committee that question, well, this comes back to what we've been talking about most of the week. What's the committee's job? If the committee's job is to put the best team in there, then yeah, it's probably Texas. But if the committee's trying to make the best matchups, then the Ohio State-Michigan angle is alive and well once again.
How do we get here every freaking year? How do we get here with this conversation? And I don't think this is going to change next year with 12 or what have you, but it's the four best college football teams in the country. That's it. That's the whole thing. And with Tate Rodemaker being a question tomorrow for Florida State, I think it even drives the point home more that Florida State is not one of the four best teams. I don't think you can say that same thing for Ohio State. I think Ohio State is one of the four best teams in the country, but I personally do not believe that they are more qualified, if you will, because if we look at this group of teams that are the best teams in college football, how do you take a Big 12 champion Texas Longhorn football team and tell them you're not good enough to play for a national championship because Ohio State, who lost to Michigan and doesn't get to play for a conference championship because of that, yeah, they're going to get in instead of you? I don't think there's any way you can do that. I am not one who believes Ohio State has an avenue to get in. I know we have debated this. I am not saying that Ohio State is not one of the best teams in the country, because I think they are. You look at this graphic, is there any doubt in your mind that the top three are three of the best teams in the country? There's no question. Florida State is not one of the four best teams in the country. Take them out of the conversation. Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, and Alabama are absolutely in the conversation as one of the four best teams in the country. I think you have those seven teams who all can stake a claim to being one of the four best teams in the country. That should be the pool. That should be the pool. Now, if Florida State wins the ACC championship, I am still not going to say they're one of the four best teams in the country. And I'm sorry, I'm sure that pisses off Seminole fan, but I think that's just the reality. When you lose your best player, a one-time Heisman candidate in Jordan Travis, and now Tate Rodemaker also, who very clearly, I don't know if you guys saw this last week or not, Tate Rodemaker's filling in for Jordan Travis as the quarterback at Florida State, is running down the field and gets just, blown up. He slides, he gets hit in the head. It was a targeting penalty, the right call. He's out of the game for like 5 minutes, and they bring him right back in. I don't know how you allowed the kid to get back in the game. He very clearly it had a concussion or should have been thoroughly examined for one. Now we find out that he's a game time decision and they're, quote, going through the process. Somebody might want to evaluate the concussion protocol at Florida State because it's ridiculous that kid went back into the game. If he doesn't play, I don't care if they win or not. There's no chance they're one of the 4 best teams in the country.
I just don't think they have their secret sauce anymore. You don't have that combination
No.
of Jordan Travis, Keon Coleman, and the gang. You don't have that anymore. And I think that's the tough part about it. Injuries are part of football. And I think, unfortunately, for Florida State, that's essentially cost you your shot at the college football playoff. But I'm telling you, this is not as clean cut. And for the record, I agree. It is the 4 best teams, but I don't trust this committee to just go that route. I don't believe the only thing that they consider is, hey, who's the best team here? I do think that on some level, they're considering brand size. They're considering hey, as an example, hey, if we put Ohio State into the college football playoff, I mean, there's a chance that we could run Michigan, Ohio State back again on a neutral site. I mean, that's good for everybody.
I would agree.
So if you're the committee, you can't tell me that that's just lost on you. But I do think that does a massive, if you were to put Ohio State in, that does a massive disservice to the process and it sends a message to whatever team moving forward is in Texas's shoes, the team that's right on the bubble that needs to win a ball game to potentially get in. It sends the message that, hey, if there's a bigger fish in front of you, it may not be good enough just to win the game.
I think one of the interesting questions here is, what does a guy like David Saylor do from Miami of Ohio, who's on the college football playoff committee? Is he pro Ohio State? I don't know. But I know a guy like a Ward Manuel, the athletic director at Michigan, is not going to vote to get Ohio State into the college football playoff.
No.
I think their road is incredibly steep.
But you see what I mean with that, right?
Yeah.
Like Ward Manuel is on a committee where he's supposed to just be objective about it. Just say, hey, okay, who do you think are the 4 best teams, whether that includes the school you come from or not? Okay, well, this year it happens to include Michigan, where you come from. Great. All right, that's fine and dandy. We all agree that Michigan should be in there with Georgia. We all agree on that.
Yes.
And whoever wins the Pac-12 game. But if Ward Manuel is going to sit there and say, hey, yeah, I'm never going to say Ohio State should be in because I'm a Michigan guy. That's precisely what I'm saying.
Is Boo Corrigan from NC State going to sit around the table and make the argument that Florida State should be in the college football playoff? Somehow I think he is, because it makes him money. It makes him money. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see how all this plays out. But again, friends, this is why we play the games. And I think Ohio State is absolutely in the conversation as one of the 4 best teams in the country. There's just no doubt. And the biggest issue here is, and I say this about Michigan as well as Ohio State, Ohio State, you didn't play anybody until you played each other. Because Penn State, congratulations, James Franklin, another very mediocre season for you, sir.
It's garbage.
Nice job. I think that Michigan and Ohio State are suffering from not playing great out of conference schedules. And Ohio State certainly played a better schedule, in my opinion, than Michigan. Even with all the mass exodus that's going on in South Bend, Ohio State still went to Notre Dame and beat them. That's a good win. And I think Ohio State very much has an argument to make if they are one of the 4 best teams in the country. But who's going to help Ohio State?
Nobody.
That's the question that I have. Who in that room is going to fight to the death for Ohio State? And my answer is, I don't think anybody on that committee is going to do that.
And I think to that point, the biggest difference between Texas and Ohio State is, at least with Texas, you can say, hey, you guys, again, assuming they win tomorrow night, hey, you guys are going to win. You guys won your conference. You had a hell of a year. We all know you had the Bama win early, and then, the letdown in the middle with Oklahoma, and now you're right back in it. And Oklahoma's not. To me, that's a better story than Ohio State. Ohio State needed to beat Michigan and didn't do it. And not just for the playoff, but for the resume, for the story of your season, for frankly, for Ryan Day's reputation. There were a million different reasons why you needed to win that game, and you just didn't. And for that reason alone, regardless of who you decide to put in there besides Ohio State should not be in the college football playoff. But hear me clearly, they do have a path, and they're going to need a lot of help to get there.
Yeah, and I think that's why Mitch Barnhart's so important. I think Mark Harlan from the Pac-12, obviously the athletic director at Utah, who I think should have been the Pac-12 commissioner. I've said that 1,000 times on the showgram. I think he should have been the commissioner. I just think you have really well-rounded representation on this college football playoff committee. And I think that it's a slam dunk, in my opinion. Whoever wins the Pac-12 championship is in the college football playoff.
Yes.
Whoever wins the SEC championship, like it or not, if Alabama wins, they're in the college football playoff. Whoever, if you're Texas and you win the Big 12 championship, I think you're in the college football playoff. The problem is if you're Ohio State, you're not playing a game. And again, I just question who's going to fight for Ohio State.
Why?
And why? Because Ward Manuel from the Big Ten is not going to fight for Ohio State. But NC State or you can look up the Alabama's got an SEC representative. Like,
I guess the question is, what's the vitriol for Michigan on the committee? Because if
I think significant.
So if it is significant, then maybe it's not so much that they're fighting for Ohio State as it is, hey, we're still pissed about the Michigan situation. And so for that reason, we're going to lobby for Ohio State.
But is Gene Taylor from K-State, who's on the committee, is he going to fight for Texas? Well, you're goddamn right he is, because he wants money for the conference.
Yes.
And that I think that trumps, man, horns down, bro. I think it trumps screw Texas. They want the bread, bro. Like, I think they want the money.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes down to. So I as much as I think a guy like Gene Taylor, who I think the world of, I think he's a very good sportsman, I think he will fight tooth and nail for Texas.
I think the other interesting angle here is conference representation in the bigger picture in the playoff. We have a situation here where, pretty much everybody agrees that we don't want both Alabama and Georgia in. We don't want two from the SEC, one or the other, and that's just what it is. Okay, fine. We're sitting here talking about how the winner of the Pac-12 conference gets in, and how the Big 12 champion, presumably Texas, should get in. So in that case, you have perfect balance between the Power Four, right? Like you're in a great place. In the ACC, it is what it is. You had injuries. Sorry.
Right.
So that's why I say that's the other thing that I think hurts Ohio State is that you're in a situation where if the committee goes, Georgia, Michigan, I think Oregon, and then Texas, you have really nice balance, total national spread. A lot of reasons for West Coaster and East Coaster and Midwesterner to watch all these games. And I think the minute you start putting in two from any one conference, like two from the Big Ten or two from the SEC, that, maybe they're trying to avoid that. I mean, we've had that so many times where it's Alabama and Georgia.
But I look at somebody like Mitch Barnhart from Kentucky. Where did Mitch Barnhart go to college? The Ohio University, not Ohio State. He went to Ohio. He's Bobcat. I think it's an interesting little rub. This is why I really like the College Football Playoff Committee. I want a bunch of folks sitting around a table, drinking beer, eating pizza, and fighting over their allegiances, known and unknown. I like the idea that Ward Manuel is going to have to stand and deliver and probably make a case to keep Ohio State out of the college football playoff. He's going to cut off his nose to spite his face.
Y'all feel me?
Right? It's ridiculous. He will do that.
Absolutely.
And I think it's fantastic. And I think guys like Mitch Barnhart, and where does Mark Harlan's loyalty lie? Is Mark Harlan from the Pac-12, Big 12, 10 thing and stuff, is he going to fight for Texas to get in the college football playoff? Let's say Texas wins the conference championship and Mark Harlan's the deciding vote between Ohio State and Texas. Which one of them gets the fourth spot? Let's say that was the scenario.
I got to think it's Texas.
God, you goddamn right it's Texas. It's his conference, right? Like, I think but it's really compelling. It's really compelling to think that Texas and Ohio State could be sitting there at the end of the day with a case to be made. If Washington wins the Pac-12 championship tonight, look out. Because I think the most compelling games from throw a wrench in it, if Alabama beats Georgia and if Washington beats Oregon, I think you're going to have a really, really heated debate at that table.
Yes.
I think it's going to be very, very difficult to say, well, this one's in and that one's in and they're out and they're out.
I think the hard
Good
part
luck.
too with Alabama beating Georgia, if that were to happen, is that Alabama's an 8 seed right now. So if, if you're going to launch them from 8-1, that's one of the biggest rewards we would have ever seen in the college football playoff in the 14 format. So to me, I look at it and I say, okay, if Alabama wins, I certainly think I have no problem with them being put in the number 1 slot. I think they're better than Michigan. I think they're playing better football. I think Milroe's better than McCarthy. But again, that's just my opinion. I'm sure there are plenty of people who disagree with that. But the point is that what if the committee goes, hey, Alabama wins, but they're not better than Michigan. They are not better than Texas, because hey, you lost to Texas, so we're gonna go Michigan, Washington, Texas, Bama. That to me would be chaos. At that point, that to me is where we're in a really strange time if Alabama wins, because now you got to consider, hey, they're an 8 seed. Where do we put them? What slot do we put them in?
Are you at all surprised that they're plus 5.5?
Bama?
Yeah.
No, I guess
you're not.
Well, because Georgia's won 29 in a row or whatever, 30 in a row. So like you're going up against this Georgia team that hasn't lost in like 100 years, it seems like. But at the same time, it's Nick Saban. I mean, if after that game the newspaper headline is, Saban does it again, nobody's going to be surprised.
It's the Sabanator, please.
Right? So that's why I say, plus 5.5. That's probably, I'm just guessing here, but that's probably one of the smallest numbers that Georgia's been. What if I said, hey, Georgia's only favored by 5.5 points over Bama? We'd probably all be sitting here saying, yeah, that's respect. That's respect to Nick Saban and that Bama squad. And I think it is, because that could easily be 10. That could easily be, a low teen number. Absolutely. That could be. If that was in Athens, you're telling me they wouldn't be a 10-point favorite. Come on.
Yeah, I think Alabama's defense is just better. I think looking at the numbers, they're better at getting after the quarterback. I think they are. I am a believer that you have a situation where I think you are just. Their defense at Alabama is better than Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, as we talked about yesterday, Georgia is a team that has its flaws. And I think Georgia is a team that has shown they can be beaten. And I think that if anybody thinks, and if you don't recognize that this Alabama team is not the same team that lost to Texas, you haven't been paying attention. This offensive line at Alabama is better. The edge is better at Alabama. Certainly Jalen Milroe's better. I think the wide receiver grouping at Alabama has improved dramatically over the season. I think these are two very even teams. And yes, I am surprised that you have a situation where 5.5 is a big number. I think 5.5 is a very big number, and I am a little surprised by that.
Well, yeah. I guess maybe we should look at it differently. I think Georgia's been rocking on 10-point numbers the whole season. So I think, getting them at, at 5.5, is I think that's respectful to Bama. I think that again, if you're 10, 12, 14-point favorites against most of your opponents most of the year, to only be 5.5, I think is saying something. And I do think that the folks who set these lines and people who really follow the game recognize that Bama's certainly improved massively. And I think there were a lot of people who left Bama for dead after the Texas game. There were a lot of questions, and they went through the whole, we all remember the video of Tyler Buckner awkwardly standing behind the other 3 warming up for the game.
Yes.
And, we remember all that drama. And so this program has come a long way. And that's why I say, for Alabama, to me, the path doesn't get any more straightforward. It just simply doesn't. And I don't give a damn what Greg Sankey wants to go out and promote on Pat McAfee's show today. Dude, you're not getting 2 in the playoff this year. That's not happening. There's no way.
I think that's probably that's a bit, but that's what Greg Sankey's job is. The commissioner of the SEC was on Pat Mac's show today. talking about how, we know who we are. And he made the case that Alabama and Georgia are two of the best teams in the country.
Which is not wrong.
He's not wrong, but you're not getting to him. I have a tough time believing if Alabama wins the game, Georgia's out. I don't know how they would remain.
Well,
that would be a shocking controversy if Georgia and Bama got in.
And Georgia is very much that team that, because they've won all these games in a row, that first time you lose, are you not just jaw dropped? Are you not just like, wow, like we just lost a game, dude? I mean, that's the kind of position that they're in. They're just they're so focused, so just on autopilot with their execution that it really just comes down to, hey, who's going to be that team that comes in and finally meets the standard to beat them?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. That's why I love this weekend. Less of us, more of you, after we tell you that BuckedUp is the official energy provider of the Monty Show every day at this time. Yesterday, I think, was the perfect example of this. We hit the Buckies yesterday, as you guys like to call them. We hit the buckshot yesterday, and we put our foot on the gas, and we finished strong. And let's finish the week strong, enjoying a buckshot. The best energy shot in the business. It's 200 milligrams of naturally sourced caffeine with a bunch of brain food combined, elite ingredients that make elite products that do exactly what they say they're going to do. And what does BuckedUp say that buckshot does? It gives you a mental lift. Notice they're not talking about energy spikes and dips, and because there are no spikes and there are no crashes. You just get mental clarity so you can get through that last meeting. You can finish the Excel spreadsheet, the conference call, the long drive home, the kids' homework, whatever it is you got to finish before you hit the hay tonight. Buckshot is here to support you doing that. I love me some watermelon. Blue Raz. You all right over there?
Yeah, I'm good.
You get it down? I've heard that about you. Anyway, the point is watermelon, Blue Raz, no matter what it is, hook it up, BuckedUp.com. Make sure you use a promo code Monty20 to get 20% off at checkout. Use the promo code Monty to get 20% off at checkout at BuckedUp.com. Let's see. First in today is Brandon, who gifted 10 Monty Show memberships.
We got to get the tradition going again. Let's go.
Yeah, free membership Friday.
Yes.
Where everybody's gifting memberships. That used to be a thing. Remember, over the summer, every Friday we give away like 100 memberships.
Do it.
Which was awesome. And we can get back to it. We so many people thanked us for Giving Tuesday. This past Tuesday, we gave away a $50 Amazon gift card just because it's Tuesday. Maybe we flip that to free membership Friday, and everybody who gifts a membership will be entered to win an Amazon gift card. We could do that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, we could do that. Hook it up. How about this? If you give 5 or more memberships today, at the end of the show, we will give away a $25 Amazon gift card.
There you go.
Let's get back to free membership Friday. I'm down for that. Brandon Butler wants in on it because he gave 10 free Monty Show memberships today. Appreciate that. Aaron Wilson gives a Monty Show membership.
Let's go, Aaron.
Let's go, Aaron. 11 new members into the, what were people calling it? The Monty Mafia, whatever it was. You guys had the name made up over the summer. Love it. Delaric gives us $5 to say Ohio State only hope is if everyone above them loses their conference championship game, then we could go Oklahoma, Texas, Bama, Ohio State, Michigan, and Georgia. I'm telling you guys, they don't need everybody to lose. They need Oregon to lose. That is the bare minimum, because that opens up that to me opens up a spot in front of. And then regardless of what happens in the SEC championship game, right? If you look at the way this is set up, whatever happens in the SEC championship game is not of impact. It is very clearly, in my opinion, Oregon and Washington, and then the ACC championship game. Either way, if Florida State doesn't get in, Ohio State's got a huge argument that could be made. And the conversation is Ohio State a better football team than Texas and Alabama? Because if Texas and Alabama win their games, they're in my opinion. And Obviously, the team in real peril, if you're looking at this chart right here, it's Florida State. Florida State's the team in real peril. But I think it is a much shorter road to hoe to get into the college football playoff.
Yes.
I do. I think it's a very interesting conversation. No doubt. Lance Johnson for $10. You guys talk like Texas beating the Pokes tomorrow is a foregone conclusion. Not at all. Not at all. This thing, though, that happened at Oklahoma State today, this is some nar beings. And Lance, I'm going to come back and read your comment in a second here. Because did you guys see what happened at Oklahoma State? Big 12 championship game, Oklahoma State, Texas at Jerry World in Tarrant County, minus 15 in favor of the Horns, 55.5, 11 a.m. tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at this video, and this is not a joke, I want you guys to understand this. This is a gnarly video. There is a fraternity at Oklahoma State called the Farmhouse. They woke up this morning to a dead Longhorn on their lawn. And it basically said FH, which basically means F off Farmhouse. And it's gnarly. And you look at this, and this is on the front lawn of a fraternity in Stillwater. This is wholly unacceptable. Look at that. And this is the tame version of it. There are far more heinous videos of this, the pictures, the videos. It's on my Twitter if you want to go and find it. This is ridiculous. This is such a bad look for Oklahoma State football. This is such a bad look for Oklahoma State. This, in my opinion, is not who the Pokes are. This is not what Oklahoma State's about until today. You murdered an innocent animal to prove a football point. And I think at a school like Oklahoma State, that is an agricultural school, where you quite literally are the Cowboys, to have this little respect for life is disgusting to me. It is. They are going to find out who did this. There is video everywhere on those streets at this fraternity house. There are traffic cameras apparently in that area. They're going to figure out who did this. This is a felony. Whoever did this should be in jail, because they not only killed this thing, they gutted it, and then they branded it. And then they dumped it on the front lawn of a fraternity house in Stillwater. Like, this is wild to me. This is not about football. This is none of that.
Totally agree. It goes way too far. You know, you're like, okay, you want to TP a house, that's one thing, but killing an animal. And there were some, and again, I'm not saying this is factual, but the spin cycle in the Oklahoma State land was that this cow was already dead, and they just went and picked it up, and they didn't actually kill. It doesn't matter, dude.
It doesn't matter.
It just simply doesn't matter. And I hate that we're spinning this. It's as simple as you just said, right? Like, you dropped off an animal that you may or may not have killed. I don't know, but it's dead on this front lawn. Like,
you carved an expletive and the name of a fraternity into the side of this animal.
Totally ridiculous.
You cut it at its belly, and then you dumped it on the front lawn. And I also think it's hysterical that people are like, oh, well, this was Texas fans who did this. This was Oklahoma fans who did this. How do you really think they know what, farmhouse fraternity is, and they're going to go find? You really think a Texas fan of note is going to murder a Longhorn and drive it to Stillwater? This is ridiculous to me. I think it is ridiculous.
Unacceptable.
And I don't understand it. Like, were you proving a point to this fraternity? And it doesn't almost even matter to me who did it. Why did you dump it on Oklahoma State's campus? What is this like? What is this? It's so barbaric. It is so inhumane. I don't even, it
It's
does not
definitely
register
next
with
level.
me.
It's
It
definitely
is,
yeah.
it is a bad look at Oklahoma State. And I like to think that Oklahoma State is better than this. And all of their social accounts immediately condemned it when it came out this afternoon, which they absolutely should have. But this is not football. This is not a rivalry. This is not, what is this, Animal House that we're talking about?
Apparently.
It's ridiculous. Lance Johnson for $10. How many times in the last decade has Gundy beaten Texas when he wasn't supposed to? Pokes by 4, ride him. I'm not saying that. First of all, this is the best Texas team that I can remember post Vince Young. I don't remember rosters being this deep. I don't remember you having 3 starting quarterbacks. I don't remember you losing your number 1 running back and offensively not missing a beat. I don't remember you being able to adjust your offense. We talk a lot of Texas football on this show, right? It is remarkable to me the level of offensive talent that's on this team. And then we haven't even talked about the defense, which has this unbelievable ability to just hit switches. And yeah, hey, we'll hold Texas Tech to 7 points. We'll play 3 quarterbacks, and Xavier Worthy's going to throw a pass too. It's unbelievable when you talk about the Jalen Fords, the Derek Williams, the Tavondre Sweat, the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. Like you look at this defense with guys like Jahdae Barron, or this defense is deeper and better than any defense in the country, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes Georgia and Bama. This defense can play with anybody. And the idea that you lost Jonathan Brooks and that you still ran for 300 yards and Jaden Blue was your number 1 running back. It's crazy to me that you are this deep and this capable.
Look at how little work Quinn Ewers had to do to win that ball game like that. I mean, you're talking about 26 attempts and 196 yards on 7.5 per. That's not a lot of work for a guy like Quinn Ewers. Oh, that's right, because you road graded them. So this idea, the reason I'm confident Texas wins this game, and hey, I get it. Maybe I have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. But if you're gonna tell me that you can come out here and play ground and pound football, and Quinn Ewers can, just drink his cup of coffee while he watches the game unfold behind the line of scrimmage, it's over. It's absolutely over. Ollie Gordon hasn't seen a linebacking group like this Texas linebacking group. Hasn't seen a defensive line that can do this. It's not going to be good enough to turn around and hand it off all game. If you think that's how you're going to win this game, you're in for a rude awakening. And so, respectfully, I understand, hey, you want them to win by 4. I'm telling you, this is a 10-point win for Texas, and they will show you just how good they are. Because for Sark, this is the moment that he's been coaching for how many years now? You are right here, dude. You're right here right now in a moment where you can do something for Texas that's never been done. You can get them to the promised land. You can get them into a situation where you're 1 game away from a national championship bid, dude.
Do you guys understand that they're giving up 80? Just looking at the sortable defensive rankings in the Big 12, do you guys understand that they're 45 yards better than any other run defense in the Big 12? They're at 85 yards a game. Iowa State's at 132.
The best defense.
God damn.
The best defense that Oak State's seen is Oklahoma, probably. I mean, obviously you played Kansas. Okay. But Oklahoma's probably the best defense you've seen.
And you're in running the football. Texas is 60 yards a game better than Oklahoma is.
So that's what
wild.
I'm saying, dude. It's not going to be, hey, turn around, hand it off, and that's just going to be good enough. That's not going to be the case. And my suspicion is, and this is what I would do, I would play man coverage across the board. I'd stack the box, single high safety, and you're going to have to prove to me that you can beat us one-on-one.
And I say that because how many yards total offense allowed? How many yards better a game do you think Texas is than Oklahoma State? If you just had to guess. Texas gives up 100 yards less a game. 100 yards less a game than Oak State does. That
I'm just saying.
When we're talking about the level of quality at Texas, Texas is not back. You can just throw that out the window. We've never seen in the last decade, again, since the Vince Young teams, I don't think we've seen a Texas team like this.
I agree.
I look at these numbers. I look at this depth. And again, I think Oak State is going to compete in every single game that they play in. They are well coached. They give a damn. I think Oak State's in every single game they're going to play. I'm a man. You're just at some point, it always comes down to talent, especially in big games like this. Why do you think Washington and Oregon is going to be so close tonight? Because their talent is, there's that much difference, right? They're really close. Two big-time quarterbacks. Well, look at the difference between Texas and Oak State. What's the biggest single difference from Austin to Stillwater on those rosters? Well, Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers is better than any quarterback on that roster. You know what the other problem is? Malik Murphy's better than any quarterback on their roster. You know what the other problem is? Arch Manning is better than any quarterback on the Oklahoma State roster. That's the problem. And if we're truth-telling, boy, I got to think that C.J. Baxter is not that far behind Ollie Gordon. Oh, and I know that just stopped the world in Stillwater. Do the math. Go look at it. That was your number one running back until he wasn't. And then Jonathan Brooks took over, and guess what? He got hurt. They haven't missed a beat. They're deep. They've got 3 more running backs just waiting for the job. The talent gap between Oklahoma State and Texas it's the Grand Canyon. Mm-hmm. It's not close. Does that mean Oak State can't win the game? Certainly not. Certainly not. But it would be a massive upset because Texas is so far and away more talented than Oklahoma State is. And I love Alan Bowman, and I think he's competed his ass off. But we're not here to compete anymore. Now we're here to win. Right? You can't compete anymore. It's not good enough to just show up, coach, we'll get them next week. That's not good enough anymore. Kids are in the transfer portal because they wanted to go play, they wanted to win bigger games. This time of year is about winning on the field and off the field. I want to win, so I'm getting in the transfer portal so I can go somewhere and win. I want to win, which is why I went to Texas so that we can win this championship game tomorrow, which is why I went to Oregon, which is why I went to Washington, so we can win the championship game, which is why I play at Bama and Georgia, because I know I'm going to compete for a conference championship. That's the bottom line. And if you think that Texas isn't motivated to win this conference championship on their way out the door, because I got news for you, as talented as they are, it's going to be a couple years before they're at the top of the SEC. And they will be, because they are going to dominate recruiting in Texas again. They will be at the top of the SEC. It starts right here. If they win this conference championship and if they get into the college football playoff, we have not seen the best talent at Texas, because if they win and they go to the college football playoff, do you not think there are kids just chilling in the portal waiting for these games to be played before they make a decision?
What happens if they drop a 50 state on a 50 piece on Oak State to go to the college football playoff? Because I'm telling you, it's not just how you win, or it's not just that you win, it's how you win.
Yes.
So I don't think it's as simple as, oh yeah, we're going up against a well-coached team, and we're just got to worry about our X's and O's, and we're just going to play the best game we can. No, that's not what it's about at Texas. It's about, hey, dude, there's a lot on the line in this game, and Gundy, Mike Gundy, hey, I get it. He's the man for the job. You need someone to go out and try to prove a point and try to be a red ass about something. He's the man for the job, and I respect the job he's done. I don't think he's coach of the year in the Big 12, but he has the award, so there you go. Now it's time to go out and prove it. Show me you're better than Sark, because I know you're not better than Sark right now. That's not happening.
I would agree with that. Big shout out to Cougar Tracks, who gifted 5 memberships to the show. There we go. Thank you. Hello, Scotty May, our newest member.
Go, pick him up. Pick him up. Pick him up.
Let's go. Appreciate all of you guys. James, the unofficial Longhorn murderer of the. Unofficial
Hi, this is
mayor.
James. Welcome back.
Yeah, I am not going to look at this comment. I am going to guess this is an apology or. Oh God, that Longhorn head rides, boy. Hey, boy. Anyway, I can't even pretend. Nope. I'm totally against animal killing. Okay. Oh, that poor Longhorn. His horns are truly down. Pokes up, horns down, boy. I am looking forward to a good game in Arlington, Tarrant County, please. With 2 really good teams. I respect Texas and what Coach Shark has done. May the best team win. Go Pokes. I think the best team will win. And a quick update on this story.
Mm-hmm.
Some folks that I trust are texting me saying that the initial belief is that this was a rival fraternity on campus. The steer was already dead, and that there was access, which is believed to have been a family member, took the steer, cut it, carved it. Because what they did is, if you didn't see it, this steer died. They cut the name of a rival fraternity into the side of the animal.
Right.
Like a heinous act. And then FUCKFH, which is farmhouse. It's called FH, farmhouse. It's the name of the fraternity. F farmhouse. They carved this into the side of this animal, gashed its stomach. Its intestines are literally hanging out, and they dumped it on the front lawn of the farmhouse fraternity, who woke up this morning to find it there. I can't even,
Because it's illegal.
I can't even fathom it. So that's the story that people are texting me. So again, I don't think it had anything to necessarily do. I think this is all in at Oklahoma State. I don't think it ain't like all the dudes on Twitter today saying, oh, it was Texas who's trying to smear. It was not Texas. No Texan.
Why would they do that?
No Texan would do that to an animal. Nobody that's a fan of the University of Texas, and I don't believe any Texan is going to humiliate an animal like that. That's just not how Texans are. I know too many Texans. I know too many Texas fans. They're not going to do that. So it's a really unfortunate situation. James Knight, disgusting act. Oak State has bad karma coming. Well, there's a lot of people saying that. I don't disagree with that at all.